I'm Haslinda. Amin in Singapore. He's been said to have turned down $100 million for his company at the age of 26. Carousell is a mobile classifieds app doing big business in the Asia Pacific, now valued at more than $500 million. Carousell's co-founder and CEO Quek Siu Rui is today's high flyer. Set up in 2012, Carousell was built with the aim of making it simple to sell and a breeze to buy. Three friends whose creation quickly spread throughout the native Singapore and beyond. Carousell is now available in 6 markets, from Malaysia to Australia, Hong Kong to the Philippines, growing at a pace with the backing of investors like Rakuten, Sequoia India, and Singapore's DBS Bank. The company's latest foray into the Philippines has been helped by a strategic takeover. More acquisitions are planned, and at the helm of the aggressive expansion is a young man still in his early 30s. A young man called Quek Siu Rui, who's determined to make Carousell Southeast Asia's next unicorn. Quek Siu Rui, welcome to High Flyers. A pleasure to have you today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Carousell was born 7 years ago. 3 friends from university, born out of a love for tech. What was the inspiration?
Marcus, Lucas, and myself, we were really fortunate to have gone for this program in university. So it was called NUS Overseas Colleges. So we were in Silicon Valley. We worked as interns in tech startups for an entire year. So small companies, 20 people. We did everything and anything that was needed. And we also took classes at Stanford University. So being in just Silicon Valley was life-changing. Everywhere you go, people are talking about apps and tech and about the startups that they were creating. And in class, we got the chance to meet with guest lecturers like Jack Dorsey of Twitter. There was Aaron Levy of Box. We got to go to startup school where Mark Zuckerberg was a speaker. And hearing all these stories was just so fascinating. They were all... what we learned was that they were really no different from you and I, just individuals absolutely passionate about a problem that they wanted to solve and just dedicated their lives to it.
What was the problem you were trying to solve?
So when we came back, we figured hey, if we love tech, we got to learn how to build apps. And then if we wanted to learn how to build apps, the best way to sustain it is solve our own problem. So we had all these gadgets, or Kindles or GoPros that we used once or twice, sitting in a corner just collecting dust. We used to buy and sell these kinds of items on forums, desktop classified sites, but we found ourselves using the mobile phone for everything on the internet, and we thought there must be an easier way to sell these items using mobile. So we searched the App Store, there was nothing like this, and we decided to just build it.
So what's really the magic of Carousell is the fact that you can list it in 30 seconds.
I think it's just about reducing friction and making it so inspiring and simple, right? The idea that you could just take a photo, put a title and a price, and list an item, it was unheard of. We really pioneered what the mobile classifieds experience should be. And I think testament to that simplicity, fast forward 7 years, over 250 million listings have been created.
Rewind 7 years though, it wasn't that easy. You had to go to flea markets, convince people to actually list their products.
Totally, man. Literally, how we got started, we had no money. So Lucas, Marcus, and I bootstrapped this with our own savings for 18 months. We had no salaries. What we did was we had 3 laptops, a lot of passion, not that much time, but we still made time anyway to go to flea markets. We went to where we thought people were having a problem selling. So if you had to be at a flea market, 8 hours in the sun, in the heat, selling stuff, we thought, why not do it in the comfort of home and snap this sell?
Was it difficult raising funds? 7 years ago, seed money was difficult to come by.
It was extremely... Fundraising is always difficult, right? I've now been raising money for many years. Last year we raised a Series C 85 million round, and before that we had B and A rounds. Every round is actually very difficult, but I think especially in 2013, 2012, this was a time when there were really no venture capital scene in Singapore. And for us, we decided that, in the early days, we started talking to investors. Some investors said hey, big guys are going to crush you. You guys are not going to be able to make money. Are you just a Karang Guni app? It's a rag and bone collector app. So not many people were really seeing the potential for this business model. And so Lucas, Marcus, and I just decided, you know what, let's just keep heads down focus, prove to people that this is a meaningful problem worth solving, get the traction, and then go out and raise.
What was the biggest challenge in that journey in building the company?
I think in our first year, in the first 2 years, 3 years, it was really phase one of the company, building a foundation, building a strong base at which we had a playbook to scale this to more markets. So it was very much Singapore-centric. And it was learning everything from learning how to focus on a segment rather than appealing to everyone and meaning nothing to anyone, right? To you gotta iterate the product. It's not ship it and it's done. You gotta keep improving, stay close to your users. It's about how you have to be resourceful and be creative about your solution. So every time there was a back to school season, Lucas, Marcus, and I would go on the campus the night before school reopens to paste posters, snap this, sell your textbooks in 30 seconds. Because it was an intense concentration of people who wanted to buy textbooks and sell textbooks. So it was a way to kind of get people in. And then we put textbooks category as our 10th category. So on the way, you see like fashion, beauty, gadgets, and so on. And so that helped us also grow. So it was really all these lessons that we learned that helped us realize that we had a playbook to now scale to more markets, right? So going to more markets, it was like doing each market was like starting a new startup all over again, extremely painful, but we did it because we cared about solving a problem for a lot of people. And the phase 3, it was all about how do you build the muscle of monetization, verticals. And it was a brand new capability. We never had salespeople, business development people, and in the past 2 years, we've really built up that muscle, and it really paid off all of last year. Revenue grew 4x last year. From day one, started interacting with them in person. We went to flea markets, talked to sellers.
Doesn't it go against the principle of buying and selling online where you minimize human interaction?
We started hearing about how people felt so much satisfaction making a friend, discovering a hobby, joining an interest group.
Now, Suri, Carousell started with 3, the founders basically, to now 400. Was it difficult scaling to where you are today?
You know, I think it's a real privilege now to have a team of 400 plus amazing, talented individuals. And it was certainly a challenge. You know, when I look back, some of our biggest challenges have been always people related. And because we feel a deep sense of responsibility for the people that we have. And when they are in a position where they don't feel like they're making that impact or they have some bureaucracy to work around, those are certainly the challenges that we've had to navigate the past couple of years as we scaled from 3 to now 400 plus people. And these are all things around the operating system of the organization. So when we first started, it was all about building a product. Today, I think about and obsess about how should our talent pool, our people actually collaborate, work together, make magic happen together. It's about how we structure, how do we put in place great culture, working principles. And that's tremendously different from what I guess we've had to do from day one. And I think going forward, the way we'll make a big impact on people's lives is through our people, and it's something that rightfully we should be obsessed about.
You talk about making magic together. That magic can't happen if you don't have the community, the buyers and the sellers. And you often talk about this community.
Yeah.
Why is that so important? Because you even have activities tailored for them.
Yeah, like if you look at Carousell, it's a great app, and it's very simple to use. There's a functionality, and we'll keep improving functionality. But really, what underlies Carousell, it's the people behind it. It's the people selling their items, buying the items, actually meeting up, sharing their stories, their interests, helping each other out in the process. So Carousell would not be what it is without our community. We from day one started interacting with them in person. We went to flea markets, talked to sellers, understand their needs, showed them the early prototypes, convinced them to be our early beta users. We went out to flea markets to acquire buyers as well, to showcase the app on what this really is, and this is a great efficient way to do it. And we also want to celebrate the community. So we hold meetups to actually interact with them, tell them what we are about, tell them what's coming, and actually just help them mingle with the rest of the community as well. And it's a really good avenue for us to understand how we can serve them better, to the extent that we actually now also held a mega community event to celebrate them.
Doesn't it go against the principle of buying and selling online where you minimize human interaction?
I think that's conventional wisdom. You think buying and selling online is all about efficiencies, but actually humans and people are at the underlying commonality in these transactions. And actually people enjoy the interactions when they actually, and we saw this ourselves. Initially we thought also the most efficient way to actually buy and sell. But we started hearing about how people felt so much satisfaction making a friend, discovering a hobby, joining an interest group like our retro gamers community on Carousell. It all started because of a Carousell transaction, and they went on to become friends. So we saw that was really the power and the magic of Carousell, where transactions are way more than dollars and cents. It's actually about that friendship, about discovering interest, about possibilities being created.
You still buy and sell on Carousell. What's the latest thing that you sold or bought?
I think, let me talk about something I bought. I definitely buy and sell a lot. I'm a big user. We started Carousell because we wanted it for ourselves. And growing up, I was a big buying and selling geek on all sorts of platforms. The one item that I bought recently is actually quite a special one, because my nephew, who's like 2+ years old now, was just bugging my dad, my brother, right, his dad, for this Ninjago Lego alarm clock, right? It's totally discontinued now in the stores. They couldn't find it, and just been bugging my brother for it. So I heard about it, I just whipped up Carousell, searched it, it was there. The next day I went to pick it up from the seller, gave it to my nephew, and my brother sent me a photo that night where my nephew actually hugged the Ninjago Lego alarm clock to sleep because he was totally in love with it. And that made me feel like
So you became the favorite uncle just instantly, right?
I don't know whether it made me favorite for the night, but certainly made me feel like a better uncle.
It's interesting because it all started with makeup, smaller products, and now people go online on Carousell to sell even their luxury cars and real estate.
Yeah.
Talk us through the transformation.
From day one, we've always wanted to build a product for everyone. But when we first started, we also learned an important lesson of focus. I think there's a saying in the Valley where it's much better to make 100 people love you than thousands of people just kind of like you. And so we took that philosophy to heart. So when we started, we saw that the segment that we really serve well was actually the 15 to 24-year-olds, largely female audience, buying and selling fashion and beauty and lifestyle products. And we just focused on them for an entire year in 2013. And that really helped us grow tremendously and unlock the network effects in the marketplace. But since then, the growth has just continued. And the product that we built has now evolved to categories like kitchen appliances, to furniture, to things like rooms for rent, to a car that you can actually buy and sell.
I had even purple wigs.
Purple wigs, yeah, exactly, purple wigs. So everything, right? I think there was even a $4,000 pinball machine that got sold. So many interesting things that evolved. And I think it's a function also of how the product has now grown to serve larger parts of the segments and of the community, right? So we started very young audience, but today we have more than 60% of our users more than 25 years old. And it's quite balanced in terms of gender distribution today. So it's really a product for everyone.
What are some of the memorable transactions? Because I know that some of the rooms in your office are named after these transactions.
Right. I think one closest to my heart clearly is the MacBook transaction I did personally. So one of our meeting rooms is named after the MacBook.
Was it one of the first transactions?
It was not one of the first. The first was actually a Kindle that I sold. But I think the MacBook one really was a very meaningful story that has kept me going in the hardest times during the 7-year journey that we've had. And it was a story about how I sold my MacBook. It was just abandoned in the corner. I listed it for sale on Carousell. A dad came to the office to pick it up, and I gave him the worst sales pitch, right? I said, it's slow and old, why are you buying this? But I really wanted to know. And he told me he was buying this for his 9-year-old daughter. He wanted her to learn the internet, but couldn't afford a brand new computer. And so for me at that moment of time, I was like, wow, actually this item that's underutilized, abandoned, actually has this potential to go on and create possibilities for this 9-year-old girl who potentially otherwise would not have been able to access the internet. And so for us, that's the discovery that it's really more than just transactions, where we want to inspire people to buy and sell, because with each transaction, possibility gets created for one another. We truly believe we're less than 1% done.
Carousell is now valued at about $500 million.
For us founders, nothing has changed. Life is still singularly about Carousell.
But you're not taking the public transport anymore.
Exactly.
Siu Rui, what was it like growing up in Singapore? What were your ambitions then?
I think growing up in Singapore, I led a fairly normal lifestyle. Grew up going to the local schools, neighborhood schools, eventually went to Ngee Ann Polytechnic, studied diploma in business at that time. And I think at the time also, combining a lot of my early childhood, going to my granddad's business to, I guess, play at his warehouses and factory, and combining this, I guess, very practical education system of like doing projects and coming up with business plans. I thought, hey, starting a business is quite interesting. And then eventually I went to university, NUS, and I did business again. And in business school, on day one, they tell you success is clearing 13 rounds of Goldman Sachs interview and getting a job there, or like being a McKinsey consultant. And after the first 2 years, you start to almost believe that that's what you need to do. And I guess society has a lot of expectations that you should just get a good job, do well in school, and get a good paying job and stable. Until I guess I went to Silicon Valley, and that's where my life changed. I guess got exposed to this whole idea that, wow, technology can really make an impact in people's lives. And I really want to dedicate my life to helping as many people as possible.
Mom and Dad must have been horrified that you decided to kind of ditch whatever you learned in school to be an entrepreneur.
Actually, when I look back, one of the toughest things about doing a startup was actually telling my parents I was going to do a startup. And I remember telling my dad and mom that I was going to do this thing called a startup. I'm going to start Carousell. And immediately I saw their faces change. It was a look of worry, fear, and I think most of all, like disappointment. And actually that really hit me quite hard. It was almost like I really disappointed my parents. But I think we were very committed in doing this. We started showing them that we really cared about this problem. We were serious about it. We had a game plan. We showed them our offices. It was free offices, office space at Block 71. And over time, I think they saw that we were really committed to it.
What's the vision for the company now, 7 years on? You talked about how 7 years on, you've only achieved 1% of what you hope to achieve. Where do you go from here?
In fact, we truly believe we're less than 1% done. Like, our belief here is that every person in this world has something in their life that's underutilized and unused that should go on and benefit someone else. Like, why sit there and eventually have those items land in the landfill? And so our vision is, how can we have secondhand become a first choice, become a lifestyle? So we dream of a world where if you had something excess in your life, you actually sell it on Carousell, goes on to benefit someone else. And if you needed something in your life for a need or want, you actually turn to a secondhand choice first on Carousell.
Like Uncle Postman.
Like Uncle Postman. I mean, like the reason why we are so passionate about creating this lifestyle is because of the impact it creates. So Uncle Postman is a story that I discovered on social. It just went viral. It was a story about Uncle Postman who's 60+-year-old. He works 12 hours a day, delivers mail to 2,000 households every single day using a bicycle. And he had gout, so he was in pain. And he turned to Carousell to buy an e-bike to improve his life. So this seller heard about Uncle Postman's story, gave him the e-bike for free. Uncle Postman replied to him on Carousell saying, "Hey, you're the best seller ever in my life. I'll never forget." Seller was so touched, posted this exchange on social. It went viral, and that's how we heard about it. And so for us, it was just two big takeaways. One, like, this was real human-to-human interaction, people helping each other out. And number two, as technologists, our responsibility of building very simple products, inspiring, easy to use, accessible products where even 60-plus-year-old Uncle Postman could benefit from.
Carousell is now valued at about $500 million. Each of the three co-founders, you, Lucas, and Marcus, own slightly less than, well, at least the figures show, slightly less than 9% each, which values you at about $40-50 million. Has life changed with all that money?
I think for us, 7 years on, the only thing that we feel every single day is this deep sense of privilege and gratitude for the chance to do what we do. It's so hard to find something where it's a product that you love yourself, millions of people love, and millions more people can benefit from. And so for us founders, nothing has changed. Life is still singularly about Carousell.
But you're not taking the public transport anymore.
Exactly. So I think for the first 6 years, we were always running for the last train. And a year ago, I finally decided to just dog food our own app. We were already had acquired a cars company. We had started a cars vertical. We had all these car dealers selling their cars on Carousell. I decided okay, maybe it's time to try what it's like to buy a car. And so I got a really simple car from one of our customers and our car dealers. And
What
it taught
car
me the
was
process.
that? I'm curious.
It's a simple Volkswagen Jetta, second-hand car. It's black, just like my t-shirt. So, very boring person.
I'm curious, in a world where technology is developing so quickly, in a world where everything's being disrupted by AI, for instance, how do you see your business being disrupted, or how are you disrupting your own business?
I think first and foremost, we're technologists at heart. We love technology and we want to embrace technology to solving problems and especially delivering a much better user experience for our users. So if you look at what we're doing with AI, one of the things that we have invested in is really, or rather really focus on as a company, is how do we remove friction from the selling and buying process. So if you look at what we did 7 years ago, Snap List Sell, it made selling a 30-second process. Today, we're obsessed about how can we make that 3-second process. Just take a photo. Everything else, your title, price, description, category is automatically populated and you can list it. And it's a beautiful listing that sells well. And we're doing a lot more of these in the buying side of things as well, right? So if you actually chat with someone today, we actually suggest chat replies. That's also based off a deep learning model that studied over 400 million chat messages to suggest replies to you. So it's dynamic, it's not a static template, right? So it's all these little things that AI can actually do to help remove friction, make it a tad simpler, and tad more inspiring and tad more fun. And we are committed to using it more.
Siu, just one final question before we let you go. What advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs?
I think the one thing that I tell aspiring entrepreneurs all the time is that you got to really be passionate about what you do and understand why you do what you do. Because I can guarantee every entrepreneur that the journey will definitely be tough. Even 7 years in, I like to joke that the only easy day was yesterday. And the reason why you keep going through all the tough times is because you really care a lot about what you do and are absolutely passionate about the problem that you're solving.
Quek Siu Rui, thank you so much for being on High Flyers. It's been a pleasure having you with us.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.